listening to Combat Sports UK.
Combat Sports UK.
Brandon here for Combat Sports UK. I am joined today by Harry Headkick Shaw, who is fighting on the upcoming Cage Warriors card on the 21st of March in London. He is fighting Jan Masic. It's his second Cage Warriors fight. Harry, thank you very much for coming on the Combat Sports UK. How's things, my man?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yeah, just got back from training. Just about to start a bit of a day of PTing. But yeah, all's good, mate. Sun's shining, happy days.
Busy man, and the sun is starting to come out in the UK, which is always good news. Good news. I kind of, before looking at your next fight, I kind of wanted to reflect back on your Cage Warriors debut. Looking back on it, a very impressive performance. You got the unanimous decision win. How do you kind of reflect on that now, a few months out, looking back on that debut?
Yeah, I was pleased with the performance. A lot of my fights, you know, I'll finish them. You know, if I win, a lot of them are finishes. So it was good to sort of like get the experience of going 3 rounds. You know, with someone like Steph, he's tough as nails. You know, I was sort of like tagging him early and all that sort of stuff, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll try and put him away. But he had a proper chin on him.
He's a hard guy to put away, isn't he?
Yeah, proper. Yeah, so it was good. You sort of had to like switch the tactics up sort of halfway through and just like, okay, I'm just going to outpoint him because I didn't want to sort of try and take his head off if the opportunity weren't there, because it wasn't. So, but yeah, like all in all, it was obviously that was like first fight with Cage Warriors. It was a good experience. Good to sort of like fight for an organisation with that sort of reputation and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, man, no, it was good.
Is that something you have to do often, kind of switching it up halfway through the fight to go, obviously you started off first round a bit more gung-ho looking for that finish, and then, as you say, you realise it's maybe not there. Does that happen often where you're like, I just can't get this guy out of here, let's just focus on getting the decision win, and if the chance comes, it comes, I suppose, but you're more focused on point scoring at that point?
Yeah, 100%. I think with fighting, like, you can't really force things. It's like if things are there, they're there. If they're not, don't try and force them. And so yeah, if things are there, then great. But if they're not, then yeah, you'll have to look to adapt. Maybe, you know, your opponent has then started to do something that you weren't expecting. They're countering a particular thing that you like to do, for example, and you've got to troubleshoot on the spot. So yeah, you definitely. I think it's good to game plan, but sometimes, you know, it's good to have a general rough game plan. But sometimes that game plan can just go completely out the window because you have to adapt to what they're doing. So yeah, I think fighting it just in general is very adaptive. It's hard to. I think it's not the best. It's not always like the wisest decision to try and force something, particularly if that thing isn't working. So yeah, you've always got to adapt.
That's a very smart approach, and it's kind of words that you'd hear from someone that's way further on in their pro career. You know, kind of being able to adjust on the fly like that. Does that come from? Obviously, you're in fighting. It's very, very hard. They have a full sort of sense of what's going on. Is it your kind of coaches that would say, look, you're better just point scoring here, or is it something that you kind of already know through the fight? Look, that I don't think I'm going to knock this guy out, or does it come from the corner?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest, because I think, you know, when you're fighting, it's like you generally need to have some sort of intuition anyway. It's like, if your coaches have always been the ones that are telling you, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, do this, do this, do this, and you're never actually figuring anything out for yourself, you know, you need to have that intuition as a fighter to be able to problem solve on the spot without the help of a coach, but also with the additional help of a coach as well. If they say that's not working, set that up, you'll know how to set it up because you've got that intuition. Yeah, that sort of thing. But I think, yeah, coaches influence for sure, where they've sort of said things like that in the past. You know, don't force things, don't do that, and as you then don't force things in, maybe it's training or sparring, you then see sort of what's the word? You see the truth in what they're saying, but then also from studying fights as well. Like, so I'll study a lot as well. I'll watch a lot. You can see people always making like adjustments on the fly and that sort of stuff as well. And so you see sort of like the highest level guys do it, and you know that's something you should be incorporating into like your mental state for sure.
That's interesting, and it is impressive that you've brought it into your game kind of at this early stage of your pro career so far. Looking ahead, Jan Masic is similar to yourself in the sense that it's his second Cage Warriors fight. How much
Mm.
do you know about him? How much studying have you done on him specifically?
Yeah, like I don't overstudy. It's like I'll watch and I'll see. Okay, what stance do they fight out of? Do they switch? What do they what attacks do they like to lead with? What sort of style have they got? Are they do they pressure? Do they sort of like do they point fight? Do they that sort of stuff? And you get a bit of like an understanding of what they do. Do they wrestle? Do they shoot for takedowns? All that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I watched them a little bit. Um, took him to the coaches. I'm really excited for the fight. It appears that he likes to stand up as well, and it's no secret that I like to stand as well.
Hmm.
So I think it will certainly be that sort of exchange. But at the same time, it's also MMA. So if he wants to go to the floor, it'll go to the floor and all of that. But yeah, man, it's yeah, looking forward to it. He's got some nice kickboxing,
Hmm.
big AMI record. So yeah, it'd be good to sort of get in there with someone as experienced as himself.
I think stylistically, as you say, he likes to stand up, and of course you do too. I think stylistically, it is good matchmaking from Cage Warriors. It's
Yeah,
going to be
100%.
an entertaining one for sure. The
Mm,
UFC's in town that weekend, of course. Cage Warriors on the
yeah.
Friday. I think they like to put them cards on. They try and get the crowd that's going to the UFC on the Saturday, which is a great idea. Does that sort of make this one a bit extra special? The fact that there might be a bit more eyes on it because the UFC is in town in the same weekend.
I hadn't actually thought of it in that sense, but I guess yeah. Now that you've said it, if there are, yeah, 100%, yeah, and that's always good if there's more eyes on it. You might get a little bit more recognition for what you're doing, and if you get like a good performance and whatever. But yeah, I hadn't really thought about it in that sense until you said it. But yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
It'll be good. It'll be good. I'm going to the UFC and I'm planning to go to Cage Warriors the night before,
Mm,
so that there's kind of proof that
class, mate.
the crowds do overlap for them. Obviously, just talking about UFC, Cage Warriors is on Fight Pass. They're the biggest organisation in the UK. What kind of
Mm.
differences, or what are the main differences, have you noticed with fighting on Cage Warriors in comparison to other sort of shows that you've been on throughout your career?
The main thing I noticed was just how it ran. It ran like clockwork,
Hmm.
and you knew like there's people. It's very well organized. In terms of because they need all of like all of your blood tests, your medicals, your this, your that. They've got people chasing you up. They've got people you can get in contact with that you've got direct contact with, on WhatsApp, for example, rather than just like trying to message a promoter that's really busy, on like the
Hmm.
regional shows and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and then when I got there, it's just everything. You haven't got to worry about anything else other than fighting. They take care of everything else, which is really good. So it's just like if you so when I was up in Manchester, I was there just how on earth do I get to the arena? How do I do this? Like, what about that? It's just like, oh yeah, there's a bus for that. Or we got you a hotel for here. The weigh-ins is downstairs. If you need anyone, you ask anyone any questions, call this number, text this number, and so it just runs really easy. And when you get to the venue, you know where the medicals are. It's all signposted. You got people telling you what to do, where to go. If you said like they're going to be on or you're going to be on early, like 6 o'clock or whatever, you're going to be on at 6 o'clock. Um,
Hmm.
it,
Just
yeah,
the
it
whole
just
production of it is just on a different level.
yeah. So just like the organization of it runs like clockwork. And then when you're there as well, it feels really good. You've got the big like, sort of like Cage Warriors logo in the background. I remember that like real
Hmm.
vividly as I'm walking out, sort of like got on my walkout tune going, and then you got all the lights coming on, big Cage Warriors logo in the background, and I was like, yeah, I'm well up for this. This is class. Yeah, and it makes you feel good because it feels really professional. Um, and then it's sort of like a good little like a nod to, oh yeah, I put in a lot of work over the years. I deserve to be here.
Hmm.
This
Definitely,
is
and that there obviously is the reason why they are leading in sort of UK MMA, and they have done for so many years now. Just looking back or looking forward to this fight with Jan Masick, have you done anything differently? You kind of mentioned there that you like to go on the fly during fights, you'll change things up. Have you changed things up for this camp at all, or has it just been sort of similar to the previous camps you've done?
yeah. There'll be a few more things like you'd try and get a little bit better at in camp. I won't give away too much, but yeah, you'll look at their style and you'll be like, okay, um, I might need to do a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. And you'll try and implement that a little bit more in training, just so you're used to doing that. But other than that, the general training is all the same. You still get all your work in, all your conditioning. Um, training, 2-3 times a day sort of thing, and just getting as fit and ready for the fight as possible. So I've got like a pretty good way of getting ready now because having done it quite a lot of times. Even over like the AMI career, that's what you get all like that sort of like amateur experience for. It's just understanding
Yeah.
how to get ready, how to prepare, what to do, all of that sort of stuff. So the general structure of the thing has stayed pretty much the same, but you add a few little bits in that are specific to the opponent that you're fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose it just becomes second nature at this stage for you. You mentioned
Yeah.
there you do a lot of studying, and I kind of want you to tell me which fighters do you tend to study, or which fighters do you look up to and sort of want to replicate? Kind of can we go to the start of your career and then maybe now because it might have changed?
Okay, so I'd say like what I love when it comes to like martial arts and in general is like the thinking behind it. I like it.
Hmm.
I like seeing it as like a thinking man sport. It's very cerebral. So I like people that are being clever with what they're doing, like laying traps. Like you've got like if first guy I absolutely loved was Anderson Silva. you
Mm.
know. So I was like
Yeah.
young when he was still sort of like championing that sort of stuff. Anderson Silva just laying traps left, right, and center. Um, that's what I love. Someone that does that sort of thing. Where they're outsmarting people. They're not just
Hmm.
sort of like winning via brawling. It's like they've outsmarted people. They've set that up, and people have fell for their tricks. I love that stuff. Like George St. Pierre again, really good with it. Good
Oh,
pressure
very good
sort of
IQ.
striking, and then very like proactive sort of takedowns. And he's forcing people to do what he wants them to do, and that's like a real. I love people that do that. They're really clever with it. Yeah. So again, you've got like Anderson Silva, GSP, Adesanya, Pereira, those sorts of guys. I love what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as you say, it's like them guys that make it more than the blood brutality. You've got Justin Gaethje fighting this weekend, for example.
Yeah,
He,
against Fazeev. Like Fazeev, I love Fazeev, man.
yeah, but
He's
they're
wicked.
they're they're kind of two polar opposites. Where looking at it, if you were kind of casual looking in, you might not see the difference. You might think they're both stand-up strikers, but Fazeev is the sort of guy that will set them traps, whereas Justin Gaethje is the sort of guy he'll just walk forward and keep coming forward. He has got more technical as times went on, to be fair, but I think I like what you've said there about kind of breaking the mental side down of it and setting traps and things like this.
Mm,
I think that's very interesting. I
mm.
want to look at kind of your medium term goal here. Is it they win the Cage Warriors title? Is it just they get to the UFC eventually, or any other major organizations, or what is kind of the plan for the next few years?
For me, like with fighting, I've always just wanted to see like what level am I? Because I always think that I'm good on the day for the most part. There's certainly been like some fights and everything you lose and you learn from them, whatever. But for me, it's always just been about like because I love training, and with the training, you get quite good, and then you sort of get encouraged to compete, and so you compete and do well at competition, and it's just for me, it's just always testing myself, and so when I've been testing myself, it's like okay, well you got that far, then you get this thing, and then okay, well, you test yourself again, and you get to like a higher level. So now I'm sort of with Cage Warriors. I want to see like, oh, where's this gonna go? Like
Hmm.
I haven't like the UFC has never been sort of a like a an aspiration as such. But if I get there, man, I'm all for it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I just want to see what level am I at. That's it,
Was it always your plan to be a pro MMA fighter, or did you
No.
just, as like you said there now, you literally just started training, you become good, you get pushed into competition?
Yeah. It was that, and then you fall in love with it as well, and so um yeah, like I mean, when I first started, I never had this sort of aspiration to be a fighter as such, but as you train, it's like I love sort of like the martial arts side of things. It's
Hmm.
like if you're getting good at your martial arts, it's like put it into a live setting and test it properly.
Mm.
And that's what I've been doing and just been doing tirelessly. And I was just like, okay, well, test it properly, test it again and again and again and again and again. Next thing you know, it's like, well, you keep testing it. And now you're in Cage Warriors. It's like, okay, so you're doing something right and it's cool. And so it's as good for your own sort of um sort of like confirms to yourself that you're good at what you're doing, because also at the same time, so I love coaching, so I PT outside of fighting, and I PT in kickboxing, MMA in general, and I teach all of these things to people. And so like, after I'm sort of all done fighting and everything, I'd love to set up my own gym
Hmm.
and teach and coach and all that sort of stuff. And so um yeah, I think competing for a good level and everything further cements you as like a good coach, because you've been there, you've done it to a high level as well. And that's also so part of the motivation there as well. So
The fact that
yeah.
you are teaching at your stage of your career now, I've heard the saying a million times that the best way they learn something is they teach as they teach it.
Yeah.
Do you find that that has sort of brought your skills on a lot? The fact that you are breaking things down in order to teach it to other people.
Yeah, because you understand it really simply, because you're
Hmm.
saying it all the time, and the amount over time with um the amount of explaining the things that you're doing, you get better at condensing them down. So you can say them in a very few short words, and then with those few short words, you do understand it. And because you're breaking down all these things, you further understand it. But it also keeps your head in the game as well. It's not like
Hmm.
I just sort of I go from training and then I just switch off for the day. It's like I go from training, I go and teach what I'm learning in training, and then or I'm teaching something else. And so it always keeps your mind engaged with it. And then sometimes then when you're coaching, I'll I'll say something sort of on the fly that I'll end up like teaching myself. If you know what I mean, it's like because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about it and you're like, oh wait, no, that's dead right.
I
So
feel like that is such an
yeah,
underrated tactic, but in order for the
yeah,
information and kind of all the wee details they stay in there as they go and teach it to other people, go and set up your own
mm,
coaching like the way
mm,
you've done, because there's a hell of a lot of people wait till it's all said and done and it becomes nearly a second income once their fighting career's nearly finished they start coaching.
mm.
Whereas the fact that you're doing a bit of it now in the prime of your career, I think that's a very, very underrated tactic.
Yeah, 100%. And I love it. I love it as well. It's like, also it's a really fulfilling job because people get so much out of it. And, you can also watch the development of someone else. And it's not just the development in their skill set, but you'll start to see a development in their mindset and everything. And it's like they generally become like better people through it.
Hmm.
And that's why, again, like I see such value in coaching and wanting to set something up myself in the future, is because I see so much value in coaching for the benefit of other people. Um, yeah, just in every sort of aspect of life, really. So yeah, I love it.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to do some quick fire questions and then I've got one more that requires a bit more thinking usually.
Mm.
So quick fire questions. The first one, dream fight location.
Dream fight location. Quite have to be in. Oh, mate, it's supposed to be quick fire, isn't it? Keep it in a hometown. Keep it London, mate. Yeah,
London.
yeah, yeah,
As going to happen very shortly, to be fair.
yeah, yeah.
Best
Or
way
the
to
O2,
celebrate a
mate. Yeah.
win.
Best way to celebrate a win. Going to get as much like dirty food as you possibly can, cram it all in, wash it down with a fair few beers with a bunch of your mates. Spot on.
What would you be if you weren't a fighter?
Oh my goodness. I've no idea. Oh my goodness. What would I be if I wasn't a fighter? A chef. There you go. I'd be a chef.
That's a good one. They cook all
Yeah.
that food after
Yeah,
you've
mate.
won.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'd be a
Sub,
chef. Yeah.
sub or KO?
KO.
Thought that one would be obvious for you. Your favorite strike?
Favorite strike, left high
Head
kick.
kick has to
Yeah.
be. Favorite
Yeah.
submission
Armbar.
and your favorite sport outside of fighting.
Favorite sport outside of fighting. Love a bit of table tennis.
Oh, table tennis. I love
Mate,
that table
love
tennis
love a bit
myself.
of table tennis.
Good
Love it.
fun. Good fun.
Yeah, mate. Get that out in the summer. Oh,
Oh,
number one.
class, class,
Number
crack.
one. Yeah.
Last question. Something a wee bit deeper. Why do you fight?
Why?
Why?
Why do I fight? Yeah, it was sort of like touching it earlier. There's a lot of reasons. So I fight because I want to set up. I want to establish myself as a legitimate coach in the future when I set up my own gym. That's one reason. I fight because I want to test myself, and I want to put the martial arts skills that I'm learning into a real life setting. I want to know that sort of like what I'm doing. I've done it. I've tested it in battle. I know these things. And then also for me, it's been so pivotal in the development of my character. Sort of like when I first started fighting, I was quite shy, quite quiet, and in fighting, it teaches you so much about yourself, and whether it's a win or a loss or whatever, the experiences that you learn from it are just invaluable. And I think if you're doing martial arts and you're getting good at it, I'd encourage everyone to compete for what it gives you in that sense. So yeah, it's a kind of bit of a collection of all of those three, really.
I love that. I love that. And we'll finish
Mm.
on that. Harry, thank you very much for coming on. Harry is fighting on Cage Warriors London on
Mm.
Friday, the 21st of March, against Jan Masic. Make sure and tune in on UFC Fight Pass and check that out.
You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
Combat Sports UK.